Hi, welcome to Off the Shelf with Christine and Katie. It's the start of a new year with lots of new books as well.
How did we get here?
So we want you to get a jump start on your TBR list together with these books that we have our eye on and can't wait to read this coming year. While no one can really predict which ones are going to be those breakthrough runaway hits, these titles have been getting quite a bit of buzz on different sites.
So, as always, settle in, grab a cup of your favorite beverage, and enjoy these recommendations. Feel free to read them now or add them to your TBR list for the future. And always let us know in the comments whether you like these picks or think of any titles to add. Trust me, we always want more.
Exactly. And if you wish to be notified of any of our new videos, be sure to like and subscribe below. As always, we're going to get to those books. Katie, why don't you get us started?
Sure. So the first one we're going to recommend, I'm sure won't surprise most of you. For those who know, it's House of Flame and Shadow by Sarah J. Maas, and it's coming out in January. And this is about, in the third Crescent City book, Bryce Quinlan struggles to find her way back to Midgard, while Hun Athlar struggles to escape prison to find Bryce.
Then also in January, we have The Heiress by Rachel Hawkins. The adopted son of North Carolina's richest women returns to her estate that he's refused to inherit, and is sucked back into the family's drama.
Ah, of course, in the beginning of the year, too.
Family stock is always great.
Pretty much. And the next one I recommend is called The Fury by Alex Michaelides. And this classic locked room mystery follows a former movie star trapped on a private Greek island with her best friends and a murderer, because, you know, typical January.
Absolutely.
Not to mention plenty of simmering grievances and thirst for revenge. This is from the author of The Silent Patient, which I know was a really big book when it came out. But yes, that actually sounds really fantastic, and I'm sure it'll be a great hit in January.
Next up in January for our fantasy friends, we have Emily Wilde's Map of the Otherlands. This is the Emily Wilde series number 2. When mysterious fairies from other realms appear at her university, curmudgeonly professor Emily Wilde must uncover their secrets before it's too late in this heartwarming, enchanted second installment in the Emily Wilde series. I enjoyed the first one. It was like a nice cozy fantasy.
Yeah,
a little bit of mystery to it too, so
pretty much.
Look forward to this one.
Good to know they're still kicking around.
Yes.
All right, and the next one that we want to recommend is called Come and Get It by Kylie Reed. And it is about a visiting professor interviews college students about weddings, but decides she can use her findings to her own advantage. And this is by the author, for some of you know, that smash hit that came out, I think it was last year, called Such a Fun Age. I know that was a really big hit, so I look forward to our next one.
Next up, we have Mislaid in Parts Half Known by Shonen McGuire. This is book 9 in the Wayward Children series.
Jeez.
Yeah, I can't believe there's been that many of them. They're great little quick reads. This one kind of says, Mislaid in Parts Half Known is a story that reminds us that getting what you want doesn't always mean finding what you need.
That could mean so many things.
So many things. But you know, these books always have a little kind of
pretty much,
moral lesson, I think, sometimes.
Okay, and the next one kicking us off for February is The Book of Love by Kelly Link. And it's about 3 teens who come back from the dead. Well, sort of. In order to get back their lives, they've got a series of magical tasks they have to complete. You know, typical February. They can't tell their families and friends where they've been, you know, or what they're doing, and that causes its own issues right there. On top of that, their efforts don't go unnoticed by other supernatural forces. And before long, these teens have to solve the mystery of their own passing or risk losing everything. Again, that sounds wild.
Yes. And then we have yet another supernatural one in Bride by Allie Hazelwood, also out in February. This is a dangerous alliance between a vampire bride and an alpha werewolf becomes a love deep enough to sink your teeth into in this paranormal romance.
We've never had vampires and werewolves before.
This romance is a little bit of a departure from her usual science-themed novels that everyone seems to love, but I can't wait to see what it's like. But if you prefer those science-themed romances, she also has Not in Love coming out in June next year.
Yeah. When you put this on our list, I was totally surprised this was the same author, considering what she's done before. So, hey, looking forward to that. And the next one we want to recommend is a new author for me, but I'm totally fallen in love. The second book is called What Feasts at Night by T. Kingfisher, and this is the second in the Sworn Soldier series. I've just read the first and I love it and I look forward to his next one. And I'm not a horror girl, so that's saying a lot for me. The audiobook's amazing. But this is then the follow-up, as I mentioned before, to the best-selling Gothic novella, What Moves the Dead, and is about retired soldier Alec Easton returns again in a horrifying new adventure. Poor Alex. After their terrifying ordeal at the Usher Manor, Alex Easton feels as if they survived another war. All they crave is rest, routine, and sunshine, but instead, as always, as a favor to Angus and Miss Potter, they find themselves heading to their family hunting lodge deep in the cold, damp forests of their home country, Galatia. But once again, something is not quite right. Dun dun dun.
Then also February, we have Wandering Stars by Tommy Orange. This is the sequel to There, and it continues the story of Opal Viola Victoria Bearshield and her nephews Orville and Lonnie in the wake of a violent event that has shaken them all. But as There was masterfully illustrated, families are shaped as much by their past as by their current circumstances, if not more so. So this is kind of a little bit more of that family.
Right. And I know There was also incredibly popular.
Incredible hit, yes.
And then next to kick us off for the nonfiction category is Sharing Too Much by Richard Paul Evans. And before he was a New York Times king of Christmas fiction, he was a young boy being raised by a suicidal mother and dealing with relentless bullying. He could not fathom what the future might hold for him. Now, in this intimate and heartfelt collection of personal essays, Evans shares his moving journey from childhood to beloved author. Perfect read for an all year round.
Yeah. I enjoy his Christmas book, so
yeah,
this ought to be nice.
I notice when his names come through, like I see his name a lot at the library. But I will admit I haven't read it, but I know I've heard good things.
Then we have Medea by Elisha Quinn. Discover the full story of the sorceress Medea, one of the most reviled and maligned women of Greek antiquity, in this propulsive and evocative debut in the tradition of Circe, Electra, and Stone Blind. Among the women of Greek mythology, the witch Medea may be the most despised. She's most known for the brutal act of killing her own children to exact vengeance on her deceitful husband, the Argonauts' leader, Jason. Medea has carved out a singularly infamous niche in our histories. But what if that isn't the full story? I love retelling, so I'm really looking forward to this Greek myth retelling.
Nice. And you might have heard this author before on the channel. It was recommended by one of her books was recommended by a previous staff member. But her next book coming out is called The Hollow Dead by Darcy Coates. It is about when Kira first woke up alone in a strange forest. She remembered only two things: that she could speak with the dead, as you do, helping them move on from the mortal world, and that sinister mask-wearing men were hunting her. You know. Mm-hmm. She had no idea what she'd done to earn their hatred or what dangerous task she might have uncovered until now. And this is book 4 in the book 4 in the Gravekeeper series.
That was true.
I said off.
It was.
And now for March.
Now kicking off March, we start off with The End of Story by A.J. Finn. This is the author of The Woman in the Window is back with another fast-paced thriller. And that's about all we have to say on that one.
Not much has come out, so.
Yes. Next up we have The Good, the Bad, and the Antis by Jessie Q. Sutano. They say this is a mystery, but I find it more of a humor mystery, I think.
It's not quite a mystery.
And we're back for more quirky humor in book 3 of the Anti series. What would have been a family celebration of Chinese New Year descends into chaos when longtime foes crash the party. So I guess maybe there's a little mystery comes in there, but I love the quirky humor.
But overall, it's just more of a wild ride.
Yes.
For sure. And speaking of wild rides, the next book we want to recommend is called The Angel of Indian Lake by Stephen Graham Jones. If you know, you know. So this is the final installment in the Indian Lake trilogy. And it picks up after 4 years after Don't Fear the Reaper, as Jade returns to Proof Rock, Idaho, to build a life after the years of sacrifice, only to find that the Lake Witch is waiting for her.
Here it's a great horror series if that's what you like. Oh
yes, I know you really enjoyed it.
Yeah. So then we also have Away from Horror, Funny Story by Emily Henry.
You might have heard of her.
And this comes out in April. With the premise of becoming roommates with your ex-fiance's new fiance's ex and planning a little revenge fake dating, can only imagine what this chaotic emotional read will be. Set over one summer, this witty rom-com follows Daphne, whose husband Peter has just left her for his childhood best friend, Petra. To make ends meet, she convinces Petra's ex, Miles, to move in with her until she can find a new job and move into another city. I don't know if I can keep track of who's with who, but it sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun romance.
I'm sure it'll be great. It's just that seems like a lot. And the next one I'll recommend is called Just for, speaking on the romance craze, is another one called Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. And it's supposed to be just a quick fling, that's what they all say. Mm-hmm. And it's only just for the summer. And again, that's what they all say. But when Emma's toxic mother shows up and Justin has assumed guardianship of his 3 siblings, they're suddenly navigating a lot more than they expected, including catching real feelings for each other. See, I was correct.
There you go. All right, now we have another nonfiction, and this is The Demon of Unrest by Eric Larson. This is the #1 New York Times bestselling author of The Splendid and the Vile, and he brings to life the pivotal 5 months between the election of Abraham Lincoln and the start of the Civil War. It's a slow-burning crisis that finally tore a deeply divided nation in two. Sounds like a very interesting
Of course, he always writes well.
Yes.
Okay, and now deviating a little bit more towards fantasy, the next one that's coming out is called The Witch's Guide to Magical Innkeeping by Sangu Mandana. So this is her sequel to The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches, which came out in 2022, and it is about an exiled witch who has lost her powers and is trying to gain them back, all while helping her aunt running in. You know, typical Tuesday.
Absolutely. Looking forward to that for a little
sure.
Supernatural fun.
Speaking of more supernatural fun,
The Familiar by Lee Bardugo. From the New York Times bestselling author of Ninth House, Hellbent, and the creator of the Grishverse series, comes a highly anticipated historical fantasy set during the Spanish Golden Age.
She always writes interesting stuff.
Looks like she has a new series starting.
Yes. And I know a lot of people are going to be very excited for this. And the next book that is coming out is called The Secret Lives of Booksellers and Librarians. We might be biased. Their stories are better than the booksellers by James Patterson, and this is nonfiction. Booksellers and librarians are superheroes, and we very much agree. And they save lives every single day. Here are their amazing, inspiring true stories, as told by the greatest storyteller of our time, James Patterson.
So it looks like he's delving into some nonfiction
Pretty
now.
much. It's been a long time, so we'll see how that goes.
Then we have another retelling. It's called The Bright Sword, a novel of King Arthur by Lev Grossman. And this is the best-selling author of the Magician's Trilogy, and they're returning with a triumphant reimagining of the King Arthur legend for the new millennium. Now, this book got a mention by Rebecca Yarros, who is the best-selling author of the Fourth Wing series. And she says, for anyone who's ever craved a seat at the round table, it is utterly enchanting. That earns my seal of
Pretty
approval
much.
as
You can't
well.
get more of a glowing recommendation than
Because that was a great book, so I trust what she says about fantasy.
Well, we have to give it to her. She is the queen right now. All right, and our next one that's coming out is more on the romance side. It's The Pairing by Casey McQuiston. And it is about 2 bisexual exes accidentally book the same European food and wine tour and challenge each other to a hookup competition to prove they're over each other. Except they're definitely not, especially since you have to do that.
Exactly. Next up, we have a sequel to one of my most favorite books. My favorite book is The House in the Cerulean Sea, and coming out is #2, Somewhere Beyond the Sea by T.J. Klune. Arthur Parnassus lives a good life built on the ashes of a bad one. He's the master of a strange orphanage on a distant and peculiar island, and he hopes to soon be the adoptive father to the 6 dangerous and magical children who live there. Arthur works hard and loves with his whole heart, so none of the children ever feel the neglect and pain that he once felt as an orphan on this very same island so long ago. So welcome back to Marcellus Island. This is Arthur's story.
And I know one of his books was popular last year, but he has a new one coming out in September. It's called The Life Impossible by Matt Haig. And it's from, as I mentioned, the Interstelling Beth author of The Midnight Library. And he comes out with a wild venture that proves that someone or something can enter your life at every moment and change everything.
Done.
It's very vague.
Now, well, we do not have the title yet, just so you know. I previously mentioned Fourth Wing. The sequel to Fourth Wing is out, which is Iron Flame. But the third installment in the Empyrean series by Rebecca Yarros is expected out in December. We'll be looking for that. So there are our most anticipated reads for 2024. A lot of things that are mostly the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
We'll keep you updated.
More still to come.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And if you have anything that you are waiting for this year, can't wait to read,
Yeah.
please let us know in the comments. We'd always love to add more to our list as well.
Yeah.
But until then, happy reading. We'll see you next month.
Bye.
Bye.